The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
Ago, I never knew this sport. Only balls, bats, clubs, roids, fields, and courts. Then I saw the dudes knocking bodies on the ring and noticed Blackhawk fans are known to drink. They started getting good and I love riding wagons, so I jumped on with the band, but my knowledge was lagging. I knew they had a reason to be cocky, cause the Bulls don't play bullsy, but the Hawks play hockey. Icing, it's the most delicious part of the cake, and I'm pro Niemi cause the saves he makes. Face-Off's a good movie, line changes, dry clothes. I also know I love Jonathan Toews. Taves. Toes? Taves. Oh.
We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer. We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer. This Justin, by Foogly and his Dustin, the ice with his blades and his name is Bufflin. I've been screaming it phonetically the last 3 games. He's the only Black Hawk on the team, you know what I'm saying? Bras know more about this sport as Chi-Town, and they rock my world. Them girls are from my town. Duncan Keith, Troy, Brewer, Johnson, hosted bowling. Wait, is this the USA, Canada, or Poland? And why the hell these guys on ice? Will someone get them a floor? They're slipping all over the friggin' place. Their shoes are on little swords. I'm from Chicago, and in Chicago we love fights a lot. So while I'm here, let's drink some beer and yell, go Hawks! We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer. We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer. I ain't from Minnesota, I ain't from Canada.
Wanna watch the Hawks?
Man, I ain't from Atlanta. I like Spud Webb cause he dunks and he's short. But I don't know a fucking thing about this sport called hockey. But I know I was glad when Chicago signed Monday Night Football's John Madden. I remember my first game I went to see live during the great season of 2004-2005.
Wasn't that the lockout?
Yeah, homie, for $50 they let me play bumper cars with Zambonis. But the game is so long, I'ma have a couple drafts and meet up with my boys to catch the third half singing. We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer. We love the Hawks and we'll always love the Hawks. We just learned about the Hawks this year. You might give a fuck if we win the Stanley Cup, but either way we'll have another beer.
All right. So that was that song. That was en route to their Stanley Cup win in 2010. It just, I mean, it is true. A lot of people, they had no clue that like the Hawks were a hockey team until like 2008, 2009 when they lost in the Western Conference Finals to Detroit. I mean, you know, and like you said to me during break, a lot of that has to do with them not being on television during home games.
Right.
Yeah. It's sort of a big deal to not televise home games.
Yeah, I mean, how do you expect
still not have people show up?
Yeah, I mean, how do you expect people to stay fans when you're not on TV? And
that's why it was a good thing Bill Wirtz died, I guess, right?
Yeah,
for his son to take over hockey.
While we were listening to that song, I just kind of looked up a list of the most Stanley Cup wins by per team, because I know the Hawks have 5 and they're an original 6. So I was just kind of wanted to compare them to the other original 6 teams, and so I brought up a list of teams that have the most. Do you want to take a guess at who has the most Stanley Cups? I did not realize there is a team that has this many Stanley Cups.
The original 6 are what? Chicago, Detroit, New York,
the Rangers.
Yeah.
Boston, the Canadiens, and the Maple Leafs.
Canadiens and Maple Leafs.
Hint, it's not the Blackhawks.
No, although, I mean, 5 is a lot. That's probably second or third. Detroit has the most, I would think.
No.
Really? Montreal.
Yes. You want to take a guess? Over or under 15, do you think?
I would think it's under 15, but I would think it's probably just under 15.
23.
That they have 23 Stanley Cup
I couldn't
wins, really?
believe that.
They're the Yankees of the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, I'm looking at this right now, 23. I'm just kind of wondering.
Is that right? Wow.
Because I don't remember last time ESPN showed like a list of the teams in all of sports that had the most championships. I don't recall seeing a team that was that close to the Yankees.
I don't remember. Yeah, because I think the Yankees have, 27?
Yeah, so I guess that it must not include, ESPN doesn't include hockey. Now, tell me if you think they may have had a dynasty. They won in 1956, 1957.
Is that their first one in 56?
Their first was 1924.
Oh, okay. Good.
So
I was going to say, if they started that in the 50s, that's
Yeah.
even all the more impressive.
Yeah, they won in 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60.
There you go. That's 4 straight or whatever. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight.
5
Now,
straight.
And then they decided to start another dynasty in 65. They won in 65, 66, 68, 69, 71, and 73.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, that's really
that is a
impressive.
lot. And
And then what? Then they
Yeah.
ended up winning every other year. Then just after
yeah,
that.
and then yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They haven't won since 1993.
That's a bit of a drought.
Yeah, it is.
22-year drought now.
Number 2 is the Maple Leafs. They come in with 13 Stanley Cups.
Okay.
They haven't won
I
since-
would have said
yeah.
Detroit again. So
They haven't won since 1967. I believe they have
Right.
the longest drought.
I've heard stuff about them before, on the radio,
Yeah, I know.
and
I
on TV
mean,
and stuff.
I feel bad for their fan base because they have good players and poor coaching and a bad front office. I mean, they do. Original 6 teams deserve better.
I
mean,
think the Maple Leafs are sort of Canada's team, aren't they?
yeah, I
They're
would think so.
they're the most popular team in Canada by a wide margin, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it would be them and the Canadians are the top 2. I know the NHL Hall of Fame is in Toronto.
Right.
And
It's a huge hockey town.
Yeah, the
That-
difference
that's
between
right.
them and the Canadians is that the Canadians have the loudest fans in the NHL.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Hawks not too far behind in that. That's
no.
for sure.
And I mean, yeah, Toronto won a lot. They didn't really have. I mean, maybe you could argue they're big. If they were to have a dynasty, it would be they won in 1945, 1947, 1948, 1949,
Yeah, it's almost
and 1951.
Too long ago to care.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, and honestly, you also have to remember a lot of these are coming back when there weren't very many. There were not 30 teams in the league back when these dynasties were
no,
happening.
there was barely any.
I mean, it started out with just 6 teams, and then it was expanding.
It was 6
shortly.
teams for a while, I think.
It was. I mean, when you say dynasty, it's really not as big as you would think now with the salary cap and
Especially with the salary
30
cap.
teams.
That's why everyone says what the Hawks are doing is just...
It's unbelievable.
It's really impressive because of the salary cap. And, I mean, we might even lose Patrick Sharp this offseason, which...
I wouldn't mind. That would free up
Which
$5
would not,
million in
yeah.
salary.
I was gonna say I don't mind it either because I mean he
production-
hasn't played well in the playoffs and there's a lot of off the ice stuff that's floating around.
I mean, they need to free up the salary
into,
because
so.
I like if they could re-sign Richards, for $1 million or $2 million again. It'd
Sure,
be
he's
nice,
played pretty well.
It'd be nice if they could re-sign Oduya maybe for $2 million. He takes about $1.5 million less than what he's making now.
Yeah,
I'd say keep Roosevelt only if he takes the veterans minimum.
Yeah,
If
that's a
not,
good point.
goodbye.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you're right. I think losing Sharp would really free up a lot of things
Because they still have to
for the
re-sign
Hawks.
Saad, they have to re-sign Kruger. I mean, those are really
And you got
important pieces
those contracts with Keith and Taves and Kane, and I mean,
that are
Hossa,
never going to expire.
all your main scorers and main
Because Hosa's still
defensemen.
making $5 million.
Yeah.
So, and then coming in at 3rd for number of Stanley Cups, it's the team you've been saying all along.
It's Detroit. Yes.
Yes.
How many do they have?
They have 11.
Not too far behind of
Kind of interesting, though. I mean,
Toronto there.
obviously they haven't had the run like Toronto or the Canadians had.
23.
I mean, Detroit did win in 19 1950, 1952, 1954, and 1955, and then
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously back they won in 97, 98, and 2002, which obviously there were a lot more teams back then.
Right.
Except you should also throw in the fact that Detroit's made the playoffs in like 30 straight years.
Has there not? I think in hockey there hasn't been a team that's won back-to-back since the Red Wings of 97, 98.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, I don't think that's happened, and the only team that's come close to that would be the Blackhawks. So
right, I mean they could have done it 3 years in a row, and coming in at number 4 is another original 6 team, which is the Bruins. They have won 6, which their last coming in 2011.
So we're in front of the New York Rangers, or are we last?
Coming in tied.
Oh, okay,
for
tied.
5th is the Blackhawks and Oilers.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, hopefully we break that.
The Oilers won 5 times in between 1984 and 1990, which is when they had Wayne Gretzky.
Of course.
So, obviously, it was going to be difficult to win during that. The Blackhawks, of course, have 5. They're going for a 6th, though.
They are going for a 6th.
And hopefully they can get it. I mean, that would be just huge for them. And
because the Hawks, they won in 34, 38, I might be wrong
34,
about that.
38, 61, 2010, 2013, and hopefully 2015.
Long time between 61 and 2010.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that, back when it was all original 6 that the Hawks weren't winning very much because they had so many good players.
Stan Mikita and
Bobby Hull, Dennis Savard, Chris Chelios.
Well, I think by that time there was probably a little. I think that there was more teams. I know there was more teams in Canada then.
I mean, I don't think the Hawks have had like great goaltenders. I mean, I think when Corey Crawford's contract expires, he'll have almost every good record for Blackhawks goalies.
He'll be way up there.
I mean, he's like the first. I mean, he has the most 30-win seasons among Blackhawks goalies. I mean, it kind of tells you that they haven't had the best goalies.
Yeah, and I mean, he wasn't their starter in 2010, obviously, but he was here for 2013. He's here now. He's been with us throughout.
Yeah, they've made
the last three playoffs
trips to the Western Conference Finals with him, and people say, "Oh, well, the team around him is good." Well, if
give Scott Darling a chance, he's an Illinois kid. No,
and even if it's like you have to have a good goalie. It's not like just because the team around you is good doesn't mean that you're going to keep winning. I mean, you have to have a good goalie. If they didn't have a good goalie, none of this would be happening. And Corey Crawford has been great in the postseason. Other than those first 2 games against Nashville, he hasn't really looked back since then.
Right.
And then after the Blackhawks, the New York Rangers and New York Islanders both have won 4.
Okay, so everyone else is less than 4. That's
Ottawa also has 4.
Okay, Ottawa has
everyone
4 too.
has in between 0 and 3.
Wow, that's a lot. That kind of reminds. Well, I mean, that's also sort of how it is in a lot of other sports too. I mean, especially like in baseball or something. The Yankees have 27, the Cardinals have 11 or something, and then after that, it's sort of like 3-0 sort of in World Series. I think the Cubs have 2 and the White Sox have 3. So,
do the Sox have 3?
Yeah, they won in 1906, 1917.
That's right.
And
I remember the 1906 and the 2005. Interesting with the Islanders, they're 4. They won in 1980, 1981, 1982, and 1983.
Wow. They dominated
That's 4 straight,
that early part of the 80s. 4 straight years.
I mean, again, there weren't 30 teams in the league. There was no salary cap. Guys weren't commanding, billion-dollar contracts or multi-million. So,
yep, that is true.
And then I'll just quickly go through this. Pittsburgh has 3. Their last coming in 2009, obviously.
Yes.
The New Jersey Devils have 3. They almost had a 4th that they could have beaten the Kings in 2010. The Avalanche have 2. The Flyers have 2, which they won in back-to-back years. So it kind of seems like a lot of these teams are like good for a couple of years. Because the thing with the Stanley Cup is once you get back, you win. Sometimes you'll lose that next year after because you're tired, and then you get back into it. That's just how it is because teams know how to win in the NHL. The Kings have 2. The Ducks, the Hurricanes, the Lightning, the Stars, and the Flames all have 1. And then any team that was not listed has 0.
All right. Well, There you go. I mean, that's a lot of
Yeah,
teams.
I thought that was really interesting. I just wanted to see where the Hawks ranked among the original 6 teams. Cause I was just kind of thinking, 5 isn't really that much considering how long they've been around. And I knew Detroit had won a lot. I knew Toronto had won a good amount. I did not realize that Montreal had won 23.
Neither did I, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know that either.
No, again, I'm sure ESPN.
Unless you're a Montreal fan.
Because last time I was watching an ESPN game and the Yankees were on, they showed that list, and